Elias Van lived at the far edge of the colony, where the lights of other homes looked small and weak against the dark land. His cabin stood alone near a line of black rocks and dead trees, far from the center roads and far from help. Most people did not like living there. They said the silence felt wrong. They said the wind sounded like whispers at night. Elias did not care. He liked silence. He liked distance. He liked a life with simple work, simple food, and no trouble. He repaired farm machines, patched broken drones, and helped sick workers when the colony medic was too far away. He was not a soldier. He was not a hunter. He was just a man who knew how to fix things. That night, the sky broke open. A line of white fire tore across the darkness, so bright that even the ground flashed silver for a moment. Elias stepped out of his cabin and looked up. The object burned as it crossed the stars, then dropped fast behind the northern ridge. A second later, the earth shook. The sound reached him like thunder mixed with metal. Something had crashed. Something big. Within minutes, lights turned on across the colony. Messages came through the local comm channel. Some people thought it was a pirate scout ship. Others feared raiders from the outer systems. One old miner said it could be military wreckage from a battle in orbit. No one wanted to go near it. The governor ordered everyone to stay inside until the security team could investigate at sunrise. Elias stared into the dark ridgeline for only a few seconds before grabbing his med kit, a plasma lantern, and his old transport bike. He knew it was a bad idea, but if someone had survived the crash, they would not live until sunrise. The road ended halfway to the ridge. After that, he drove over broken ground and loose stone, guided only by smoke in the distance. The closer he got, the stranger the night felt. The air smelled burned. Hot metal, fuel, and something else. Blood. He slowed the bike and cut the engine near a field of cracked black rock. A trail of wreckage had torn through the land. Pieces of glowing metal lay scattered across the ground. Small fires moved in the wind. The main body of the ship had smashed into the side of the ridge and split open like a broken shell. For a moment, Elias only stood there, listening. No voices, no movement, no cries for help. Then he saw the first body, a man in heavy combat armor, lay face down near the wreck, one arm twisted under him. His rifle had been cut in half. Elias moved closer and froze. The armor was not colony-made. It was high-grade, expensive, professional, the kind used by bounty hunters, mercenaries, or black ops teams. A second body lay near the rocks, then a third, then a fourth, all dead. None of them looked like crash victims. They looked like men who had come ready for war and lost. Elias felt a cold line move down his back. This was not an accident site. This was a battlefield. He raised his lantern and followed the signs of fighting. Scorched stone, deep impact marks, blood trails, a broken blade, and a melted helmet. Whatever happened here had been fast and violent. Then he found her. She was lying half under a sheet of torn metal beside the wreck, motionless in the dust. At first, Elias thought she was dead too. Then he saw her chest rise. She was not human. Her skin was pale silver under the blood. Her dark hair was burned at the ends. Pieces of black armor still covered her shoulders and arms, though most of it had been shattered by blaster fire. One side of her body was badly wounded. Blood had soaked into the ground beneath her. Even injured, she looked dangerous. One of her hands still held the broken handle of a blade. Elias looked around her and understood the truth. The dead men had not killed each other. They had come for her, and somehow, while wounded and outnumbered, she had killed them first. He should have turned around. He should have gone back to the colony and called security. Any smart man would have done that. Instead, he knelt beside her. He scanned her pulse with his med tool, weak, unstable, breathing shallow. She would die soon without help. As he reached toward the wound in her side, her eyes opened. Elias stopped. Breathing. Her eyes were sharp, bright, and fully aware. In one sudden movement, she grabbed his wrist. Her grip was like iron. For a wounded woman lying in blood and metal, she was terrifyingly strong. They stared at each other in the firelight. Elias could not understand her expression. Pain, suspicion, rage, fear, all of it sat behind those strange eyes. Then she looked past him at the dark land, as if checking for more enemies. When she spoke, her voice was weak but cold. "Why, are you here?" Elias swallowed hard. "You crashed." Her grip tightened for one more second. Then her strength finally gave out. Her hand fell away. She lost consciousness. Elias sat still, his heart pounding. He looked again at the bodies around her. Elite fighters. Better armed than colony security. All dead. And this woman had done it while half dying. He knew one thing now. If he carried her home, he would be bringing danger with him. If he left her here, she would die. Elias looked at the sky, then at the wounded alien woman, then at the dead men who had failed to finish the job. Very slowly, he let out a breath. "This is a terrible idea," he whispered. Then he lifted her into his arms and carried her toward the bike. Far above them, hidden behind the clouds, a faint signal began to pulse from the broken ship into deep space. Someone out there was still looking for her. When Elias brought the injured alien woman into his cabin, the night felt heavier than before. The small home had never seemed so quiet. He locked the front door, closed every window shield, and turned off the outer lights. Then he carried her down into the lower storage room beneath the cabin. It was the safest place he had. The space was narrow, cold, and filled with old machine parts, sealed grain boxes, broken tools, and medical supplies. It was not made for guests. It was made for secrets. He laid her carefully on a repair table and pulled the torn metal away from her body. Up close, the damage looked even worse. Burn marks covered one shoulder. There was a deep cut along her side. 2 small pieces of dark metal were still buried near her ribs. Her armor had protected her from death, but only just. Elias took a slow breath and opened his med kit. He had treated miners, farmers, and machine workers before. Human wounds were simple. This was not. Her body temperature was lower than his scanner expected. Her pulse came in strange patterns. Her blood was thicker, darker, and moved more slowly. He almost made a mistake with the first pain injector, then stopped when the scanner warned him the dose could shut down her heart. "Great," he muttered softly. "Different blood, different organs, different chemistry. Why not?" Still, he kept working. He cleaned the wound with sterile wash. He removed the first metal fragment with a narrow tool. She did not move. The second piece was deeper. When he touched it, her body tensed hard, even while unconscious. Her hand closed around the edge of the table so tightly that the metal bent. With a sharp sound, Elias froze. He stared at the bent steel. Then he looked at her hand. She did that half asleep. He whispered. He continued more carefully. The second fragment came free at last. Dark blood ran down her side. Elias sealed the wound with field foam, wrapped her chest and ribs, and placed a thermal sheet over her body. Her breathing became a little steadier, but not by much. For the next hour he sat beside the table, listening. Every sound outside made him look up. Wind against the cabin wall. A transport drone passing in the distance. A voice on the colony channel. People were still talking about the crash. Security teams wanted to search the ridge at first light. Some settlers claimed they saw moving lights in the hills. One man said he found dead soldiers near the old rock fields. Another said, "No one should go out alone." Fear was spreading fast. Elias turned the volume lower. The woman did not need noise. And he did not need panic. He studied her armor while she rested. Most of it was broken, but what remained was unlike anything made on the colony. The material was light, layered, and strangely smooth. with lines that looked almost alive under the lamp. Burn marks crossed one shoulder plate. There, beneath the damage, he saw a symbol, a black circle cut by 3 silver lines. He frowned. He had seen it before. Not here. Not recently. Long ago. Maybe on a war report. Maybe on an old military stream from the core systems. He could not place it, but the mark made his stomach tighten. Before he could think further, the woman's eyes opened. This time she moved faster than fear. In one sharp motion, she rolled off the table, landed low on her feet, and grabbed a cutting tool from the shelf. The thermal sheet fell behind her. Blood ran fresh through the bandage, but she did not seem to care. Elias raised both hands at once. "Wait," he said. "I'm not here to hurt you." She said nothing. Her eyes moved over the room with cold speed. Door, vent, stairs, tools, distance, light, exit. Her gaze returned to him. She was measuring everything, even weak. She looked like a predator forced into a cage. "You treated me," she said at last. Her voice was low and rough. "Yes." "Why?" The question came with real confusion, not anger. Elias blinked. "Because you were bleeding to death." She kept the tool in her hand. "You saw the bodies?" "Yes." "And you still brought me here?" He hesitated. "You needed help." For a moment she just stared at him, as if his answer made no sense at all. Then she swayed. The movement was small, but Elias saw it. Blood loss, weakness, pain finally catching up. "You need to sit down," he said. "I do not need her." Legs almost gave out. He stepped forward, but she lifted the tool toward his throat so fast he stopped at once. For one long second, neither of them moved. Then she lowered. The knock at the door seemed to shake the whole cabin. Elias looked at Kayla. Kayla looked at the stairs for 1 second. The room turned still and sharp, like the air before a storm. Then Kayla stood up. She moved with pain, but not with weakness. Her body had changed the moment she heard the voice outside. A second ago, she had been an injured stranger in a hidden room. Now she looked like something else entirely. Her back was straight. Her eyes were hard. Her breathing slowed. Every part of her became controlled. Ready. Elias stepped closer and spoke in a low voice. "You need to hide." "I can kill them before they call for help," she said. The words were quiet, simple, and without emotion. That frightened him more than if she had shouted them. "No," Elias said at once. "No one is killing anyone in my house." Another knock came from above. "Elias," the voice shouted again. "We know you're inside." Kayla's gaze shifted to the ceiling, as if she could see through it. "Two at the door," she said. "One more outside, near a vehicle." Elias stared at her. "How do you know that?" I listened. The answer was short, but Elias did not ask more. There was no time. He looked around the storage room fast. There was no perfect hiding place. Only shadows, stacked supply crates, a broken machine frame, and an old floor compartment under a tarp. Too small, too obvious. Then his eyes fell on the cold storage wall at the back. One panel was false. Behind, it was a narrow maintenance space, barely large enough for one person to fit. He pointed at it. "There." Kayla did not move. "If they find me," she said, "they die." Elias stepped closer until she had to look at him. "If they find you, let me speak first." Her face gave nothing away. "Kayla," he said, trying to keep his voice steady, "listen to me. These are colony people. They are not your hunters. They are scared and doing their job. Fear makes people dangerous." "Yes," Elias said. "So don't give them a reason." Upstairs, a fist hit the door hard. "Elias, open up now." Kayla held his gaze one moment longer. Then, without a word, she slipped behind the false panel and disappeared into the dark space. Elias quickly pulled the panel shut, dropped a tarp over some nearby tools, grabbed a grease cloth, and ran upstairs. He opened the cabin door with what he hoped looked like sleepy annoyance. 2 colony security officers stood outside in gray field armor. Behind them, a patrol vehicle idled near the road, its front lights cutting through the dark. A 3rd officer remained by the vehicle, watching the tree line. The older man at the door, Officer Bren, frowned. "Took you long enough." Elias rubbed his eyes like he had just woken up. "I was asleep." Bren looked past him into the cabin. "At a time like this?" Elias gave a small shrug. "Some of us still work in the morning." The 2nd officer, younger and sharper, did not smile. Her name badge read Sierra. She held a scanner in one hand. "There was a crash north of the colony," she said. "You heard it?" Everyone heard it. "We're checking out our homes," Bren said, "making sure no one came this way." Elias leaned on the doorframe. "You think someone walked here from that wreck?" "We think many things," Sarah replied. Her scanner gave a soft pulse. Elias felt his chest tighten. She looked at the screen, then up at him. "You running extra power tonight?" He kept his face calm. "Lower room heater. It breaks if I shut it off too fast." Bren stepped forward. "We need to take a quick look inside." That was the moment everything could have gone wrong. Elias knew if they went downstairs, if they looked too closely, if Kayla heard one wrong word or one raised weapon, blood would cover the floor before anyone could stop it. Still, he forced himself to step aside. "Fine," he said, "but make it quick." The officers entered. Bren checked the front room while Sierra moved slowly, scanning walls, corners, and floor heat traces. Elias followed them, trying not to watch her too closely. That would only make her more suspicious. "You live alone?" Sierra asked. "Yes." "No visitors?" "No." Bren stopped near the workbench and picked up a metal part. "You go out tonight?" Elias shook his head. "Not after the alert." A lie, and maybe not a good one. Sierra turned toward him. Her eyes were narrow now. "Your boots are dirty." He looked down. Dust from the ridge still clung near the solace. "I took the bike out before the crash," he said quickly. Water filter at line 7 was failing again. Sierra held his gaze for a second too long. Then she walked toward the basement door. Elias felt the blood drain from his face. "That room heated too?" she asked. "Storage room." She reached for the handle. Down below, in the dark behind the wall, Kayla would be listening, measuring distance, counting heartbeats, deciding who would die first. Elias moved before he could think. He stepped toward the shelf beside the door and knocked over a box of machine bolts. They hit the floor in a loud metal storm. Bren cursed and stepped back. "Damn it, Elias." "Sorry," Elias said quickly, crouching to gather them. "Loose shelf." For 1 second, Sierra looked away from the basement door. That was enough. Sound came through the colony unit on Bren's shoulder. Static, then a voice. "All patrols respond. We found more bodies at the ridge. Repeat, more bodies. Heavy weapons on site. Possible off-world mercenary involvement." Both officers stiffened. Bren touched the cum. Understood. Moving now. Sierra looked once more at the basement door, then back at Elias. "If you see anyone strange," she said, "you call us immediately." Elias nodded. "Of course." Bren and Sierra left fast. Their vehicle turned hard and sped away toward the ridge. Elias shut the door and locked it. Then did he breathe, slowly. He went downstairs and opened the false panel. Kayla stepped out without a sound. In the weak basement light. Her expression was unreadable, but her next words were not. "You lied well," she said. Elias gave a tired laugh. "I wish that felt like a good thing." Kayla's eyes moved toward the ceiling, toward the road beyond it, toward the dark world outside. "They found the others," she said softly. "That means more will come." Elias frowned. "How many more?" Kayla looked at him. "For the First time, he saw something deeper than danger in her face. He saw certainty. Enough, she said, to burn this colony to the ground. The silence after the officers left was heavier than before. Elias stood in the dim light of the storage room, staring at Kayla. The truth had changed. It wasn't just about hiding a wounded alien anymore. It was about surviving what was coming. Kayla leaned against the broken machine frame, one hand pressed to her side where fresh blood had started to seep through the bandage. Pain flickered across her face, but she didn't make a sound. Her eyes stayed sharp, scanning the walls, the stairs, the vents, like she was already planning an escape route. "You need rest," Elias said. "I need time," she replied. "And we don't have it." He wanted to argue, but the cum unit on his belt buzzed again. A new alert, ***, colony-wide warning. Multiple unidentified ships detected entering outer orbit. No official signal. All civilians remain indoors. Security forces on high alert. ***, Elias froze. Kayla only closed her eyes for a second, not in fear, but in resignation. "They found me," she said. "How?" Elias asked. "They shouldn't." "Know you're here. The ship's distress beacon activated when I crashed. Even broken, it sent a trace. They followed the signal, but I shut it down." "You did," she said. "But not fast enough." Outside, the night grew louder. Drones passed overhead. Alarms sounded in the distance. Lights flashed from the colony center. People were scared, confused, asking questions no one could answer. Elias turned to her. "Who are they?" She looked at him like the answer would break something. Then she spoke. "The Vather Syndicate." Elias had heard the name. Everyone had. Not as news, not as history, but as a warning. The Vather were not soldiers, not pirates. They were hunters. Elite, rich, and merciless. They worked for the highest bidders in the galaxy, capturing war criminals, rogue generals, escaped weapons, and legendary warriors who were supposed to be dead. "And you're on their list," Elias said slowly. Kayla gave a small nod. "I'm not just on it. I'm at the top." Silence filled the room. Then Elias asked the one question he feared most. "Why?" Kayla hesitated. For the first time, she looked unsure. Then she said, "Because I know what they did." "What?" "A weapon," she whispered, "hidden in the core systems. A device that can wipe out entire planets in seconds. Silent, untraceable, and ready." Elias felt the air leave his lungs. "You're serious?" "I watched them test it," she said. "On a world with 8 million people. There were no warnings, no survivors, just dust and silence." Her voice didn't shake, but her hands did. "I stole the data. I ran. They thought they killed me. But I survived. And now, if they catch me alive, they'll use me to find the last piece, a code only I carry." Elias stepped back. "So you're not just a warrior. You're the only proof this weapon exists." "Yes, and if they get you, they win. The weapon stays hidden, and more worlds will burn." Elias sat down hard on a crate. His mind raced. This wasn't just about saving one life anymore. This was bigger than the colony, bigger than him. But then he looked up. "You're still injured. I can fight. Not like this." Kayla glared at him. "I've fought with worse." "And lost how many times?" Elias snapped. "You're not invincible. You're bleeding. You're tired. And right now, you're standing in my house because I chose to help you, not because you broke in." She stared at him. He stood up. "If we're going to survive, you don't get to make every decision alone. That's not how humans work." Kayla opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. Instead, she looked away. For a moment, the warrior vanished. The tunnel beneath Elias's cabin was old, narrow, and half-collapsed in places. It smelled of rust, damp stone, and forgotten time. A single line of broken lights flickered along the ceiling, some still working, others dead for decades. The air was cold. Dust fell with every step. Elias moved fast, using a handheld scanner to guide their path. Kayla followed behind him, one hand pressed to her side, her breathing tight but controlled. Every few steps, she stopped and turned, listening. Her eyes scanned the dark like she expected enemies to rise from the shadows. They didn't have much time. Above them, the hunters were closing in. Below, the tunnel led deeper into the ridge, toward an abandoned power station built years ago during the colony's first expansion. No one went there now. The place had been stripped of value, left to rot. But Elias knew its secrets, and he knew how to use them. "We're not just hiding," Elias said without looking back. "We're setting a trap," Kayla slowed. "What kind of trap?" "The kind that turns weakness into strength." He glanced at her. "You fight with speed and skill. I fight with knowledge and ground." She almost smiled. "So you're the brain, I'm the blade." Something like that. They reached a junction in the tunnel. One path led straight, blocked by fallen rock. The other turned left, sloping downward into deeper darkness. Elias stopped. "This way," he whispered. They moved on. 10 minutes later, they entered the ruins of the power station. It was a wide, open chamber filled with broken machines, shattered control panels, and hanging wires that swung like vines. At the far end stood a massive generator core, silent, rusted, but still connected to deep underground energy lines. The whole structure sat on unstable ground, weakened by years of neglect and underground quakes. Elias pulled out a small device from his pocket, a remote bypass tool used for emergency repairs. "This place isn't dead," he said. "It's sleeping." Kayla looked around, confused. "You want to power it up?" "No, I want to break it at the right moment." He began moving quickly, rewiring circuits, reconnecting broken lines, and placing small charges on key support beams. He worked with calm focus, like a man who had planned this in his dreams. Kayla watched him. "You've thought about this before." Elias didn't look up. Living at the edge means always being ready. You never know when someone will come for what's yours. She studied him. "Most humans would have run by now, or handed me over. Most humans aren't me." A silence passed. Then Kayla said, "Why are you doing this?" Elias paused. He turned and faced her. "You saved my life once," she added quietly. "But I am not worth the death of your people." "I don't see it that way," he said. "I see a woman who fought alone for too long, who carried a truth no one else dared to face. And now, instead of running or fighting blind, you have someone beside you." Kayla looked down. For a moment, the warrior vanished again. In her place stood a woman who had spent her life feared, hunted, and used but never trusted. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "Working with someone, relying on another." Elias gave a small nod. "Then let me show you." He handed her the second remote. "This controls the east side charge. When I say now, you press it, and if I fail, you won't." She took the remote. Outside, the ground trembled. A soft thud echoed through the tunnel. Then another. Footsteps. Light flickered at the entrance. The hunters had found the tunnel. 3 figures in black armor stepped inside, weapons raised. Their helmets scanned the space with red targeting beams. They moved slowly, silently, professionals trained to hunt the deadliest prey. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. They already knew someone was here, and they would burn the earth to find her. Back in the power chamber, Elias crouched behind a broken console, watching the feed from a tiny drone camera he had placed in the tunnel. "They're coming," he whispered. Kayla knelt beside him, her body tense, her breath steady. "Ready?" Elias asked. She nodded. He pressed a button on his remote. A loud clank echoed through the far end of the chamber. One of the hunters turned sharply toward the sound. "A false alarm," a rigged machine set to move and make noise. 2 hunters broke off, moving toward the distraction. Only one remained at the entrance. Elias smiled. "Now," he said. Kayla pressed her button. A deep crack echoed through the chamber as the eastern support beam exploded in sparks and dust. Metal groaned. The floor tilted slightly. Wires snapped. Lights flashed wildly. The lone hunter spun around. Too late. Elias triggered the second charge. The roof above the entrance collapsed in a storm of rock and steel. Dust filled the air. Silence. Then coughing. One hunter crawled out from under the tusty rubble, injured, dazed but alive. The other two rushed back, pulling weapons. Elias grabbed Kayla's arm. "Time to go." But she didn't move. Instead, she stepped forward into the light. Her blade slid from her coat. She stood tall, wounded, bleeding but unbroken. The 3 hunters turned, raising rifles. Kayla said nothing. She only smiled. Then she charged. Elias watched in awe. She moved like fire, fast, precise, unstoppable. She dodged the first shot, closed the distance, and cut down one hunter before he could reload. The second fired wildly. She ducked, rolled, and broke his arm with a single strike. The third tried to run. She threw her blade. It hit true. Silence. Returned. Kayla stood among the fallen, breathing hard, blood dripping from her side. Elias walked up slowly. "That was impressive," he said. She pulled her blade free and wiped it clean. "You forget one thing." "What?" "I'm not just a warrior," she said, turning to him. "I'm the one they feared to find." Above them, more thuds echoed. More hunters. Bigger weapons. And this time, they weren't coming alone. The ground trembled again, not from a single step, but from something heavier. Not boots. Treads. Elias felt it through the floor. A deep, rolling vibration, like thunder trapped beneath stone. Kayla froze mid-breath. She turned toward the tunnel entrance, her eyes sharp, her body still. Then she whispered one word. ***, Walker. ***. Elias's blood went cold. He knew what that meant. Not just more hunters, a war machine. The Vather didn't send foot soldiers for high-risk targets. They sent hunter-class assault walkers, 3-meter-tall armored frames with pulse, cannons, heat trackers, and reinforced blades. Built to crush resistance. Designed to kill legends. And now one was coming straight for them. "We can't fight that," Elias said, already scanning the chamber. "Not head-on." Kayla wiped blood from her lip. "We don't have to." She walked fast to the fallen hunter, ripped open his armor, and pulled out a small device, a black orb with glowing red lines. Elias recognized it instantly. ***, tracker, jammer, ***, used to blind enemy sensors. Short range. Lasts only minutes, but in the right hands it could be a weapon. Kayla tossed it to Elias. "You said this place has power?" "Yes, but it's unstable. The core could overload if pushed too hard." Her eyes lit up, not with fear, but with fire. "Good, then we make it explode on purpose." Elias stared at her. "You want to blow up the whole station?" "I want to bury the walker before it reaches us." She pointed at the ceiling beams above the tunnel path. "If we collapse the roof before it enters, the machine falls into the chasm below. Number. Second chances." Elias looked around fast. The old power station sat on cracked ground. Beneath the main tunnel was a deep fissure, left by an ancient quake. It had no bottom, just darkness, and falling rock. He nodded. "We trigger the collapse from inside. But we need to time it perfectly." Kayla handed him the jammer. "Use this when the walker enters the tunnel. It'll blind its sensors. For 90 seconds, that's all we need. And you?" "I slow it down." Elias grabbed her arm. "You're injured. You can't face that thing alone." Kayla looked at him, not with anger, but with quiet strength. "I'm not alone." She said, "I have you." That was enough. They moved fast. Elias ran to the control panel near the generator core. His fingers flew over broken switches, reconnecting emergency circuits, rebooting power, and setting the overload sequence. Sparks jumped from the console. Lights flickered across the room. The hum of energy grew louder. Above, the thudding grew. Stronger. Closer. Then silence. For 3 long seconds. Nothing. Then a heavy clank echoed from the tunnel. The walker had arrived. It stepped forward slowly, its massive metal legs crushing stone underfoot. Its twin pulse cannons scanned the dark, searching for heat, movement, life. Red targeting beams swept the walls. Inside the chamber, Elias held the jammer in one hand, his finger over the button. He waited. One more step. Then, now he pressed. The button. A pulse burst from the orb. Across the tunnel, the walker's lights flickered. Its sensors died. Blind. Alone. Kael. A didn't wait. She sprinted from cover, blade in hand, moving like shadow and steel. She reached the tunnel mouth just as the walker tried to retreat. Too late. With a single leap, she landed on its back leg, drove her blade into a joint, and ripped the wiring apart. Sparks exploded. The machine stumbled. She jumped clear as it roared forward, straight into the chamber. Elias slammed the overload switch. The generator core flared to life. Lights flashed red. A warning siren screamed through the ruins. Asterisk, asterisk, overload imminent. Evacuate immediately. Asterisk, asterisk. Kayla ran back toward Elias. He grabbed her arm and pulled her behind a thick support pillar above them. The ceiling groaned. Cracks spread like lightning across the stone. Then boom. The eastern roof collapsed. Rock, steel, and dust crashed. Down right on top of the walker. It fired blindly, blasting the air. But there was no escape. The ground split beneath it. With a final metallic scream, the war machine fell. The sky turned black, not with night, but with shadow. Above the colony, the Zareth Dominion cruiser hung like a blade over a sleeping world. Silent, massive, unmoving. It didn't fire. It didn't speak. It simply watched, scanning the land below with cold, precise sensors, waiting, hunting. Kayla stood at the edge of the ruins, staring up. She knew that ship. She had once served on one just like it. Trained, fought, killed. Now, they had come to finish what they started. Elias joined her, his breath visible in the cold air. "They're not here for the colony," he said. "No," Kayla whispered. "They're here for me. And if they find you, they'll take me back, rewire my mind, lock away the truth. Then send me out again, as their weapon." Elias looked at her. "You won't let that happen." She turned to him. "No. But I can't fight them alone." "You're not alone," Elias said firmly. "This is our home now, and we don't give up on people." A faint sound came from behind them. Footsteps. They turned. 2 figures emerged from the tunnel. Colony. Security officers Bren and Sierra, weapons drawn, faces tense. Bren raised his rifle slightly. "We saw the explosion, heard the alarms. What the hell is going on out here?" Sierra's eyes locked on Kayla. "And who is she?" Elias stepped forward. "Her name is Kayla. She's not your enemy." "Then why did 3 mercs and a war machine attack this place?" Sierra snapped. "Because she knows something dangerous," Elias said. "Something powerful groups will kill to keep hidden." Bren lowered his gun a little. "Like what?" Before Elias could answer, Kayla spoke. "A planet-killing weapon," she said. "Hidden by the Zareth Dominion. Tested on millions, and now they want it ready for use." Silence fell. Even the wind seemed to stop. Sierra slowly lowered her weapon. "You expect us to believe that?" "I don't care what you believe," Kayla said. "I care what you do. Because right now, that ship above us has targeting locks on every building, every road, every person in this colony. They're not searching. They're counting. And when they decide you're no longer useful, they'll erase you all without a second thought. Bren looked up at the sky. The cruiser pulsed. A single red light flared across its hull. A warning. An ultimatum. Sierra turned back to Elias. What do we do? Elias looked at Kayla. She gave a small nod. We fight, Elias said. But not like soldiers, like humans. He turned and ran into the ruins. Minutes later, every working drone in the colony was airborne. Every power relay was rerouted. Every old defense system, built for meteor warnings, pirate raids, and emergency signals, was reprogrammed. Elias wasn't a warrior, but he was a builder, and he knew how to turn broken things into weapons. Using Kayla's stolen tracker data, he hacked into the cruiser's weak signal feed, not to attack, but to trick it. He sent fake heat signatures, false movement reports, and ghost transmissions across the ridgeline. The ship responded, shifting focus, launching scout drones, wasting time. Meanwhile, Kayla moved through the shadows, still wounded, still bleeding, but faster than fear. She took down 2 scout teams before they even knew she was near. One drone tried to escape. She shot it down with a hunter's rifle. Then she returned to Elias. It bought us 10 minutes, he said. 10 minutes is enough, she replied. They climbed to the highest point, an old transmission tower on the ridge. From there, they could see everything. The colony below, the cruiser above, and the truth between them. Kayla turned to Elias. When they come, I go alone. No, he said. We end this together. She looked at him, really looked. You risked everything for a stranger, she said. Why? Because humanity doesn't walk away from those in need, he said. We stand, we protect, we fight, not for glory, but for each other. Kayla's eyes softened. For the first time she smiled, not a warrior's smirk. Real smile. Then the sky split open. 3 drop pods slammed into the ridge, larger, darker, deadlier. Out stepped 4 figures. Tall, armored, faceless, Zareth, enforcers. Elite, trained, unfeeling. They moved in perfect silence. Kayla drew her blade. Elias picked up a pulse rifle. They stood side by side. The first enforcer charged. Kayla met him head on. Blades clashed. Sparks flew. She fought with speed, skill, fury, but they were strong. Too many. One knocked her down. Another aimed a shock baton at her neck. Elias fired. The shot hit the enforcer's helmet, cracked it. Kayla rolled, kicked, rose, and cut him down. The others turned. One lunged at Elias. Kayla screamed estrogen monoxide and threw her blade. It struck true. The last enforcer froze, then fell. Silence. Kayla staggered to Elias. He was hurt, arm burned, leg bleeding, but alive. She knelt beside him. You saved me, she said. You saved us all, he replied. Above. The cruiser pulsed once, then turned. Slowly, silently. It began to retreat. It had failed. The weapon's secret was safe. The warrior was free. And the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. Weeks later, the colony rebuilt. Kayla stayed, not as a weapon, not as a legend, but as a woman. And every night, she stood at the edge of the ridge, not to watch for enemies, but to guard the home that chose to save her. Because sometimes, the deadliest warrior isn't the one who kills the most. It's the one who finally learns to protect.